Hey, 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 hey. How y'all doing? You know what time it is? It is 12 o'clock. It's lunchtime. It is noontime. Noontime, my time. Yes. So you know what we do this time? We decided that we're not just going to call this noontime, the regular lunchtime. No, where you've been waiting for that 12 o'clock, you've been waiting to just kind of rush, get out of the office and eat. No, we're reclaiming our time. We're going to recenter ourselves. And we're going to make sure that we can go back into the rest of the day after lunch in a better place. You dig what I'm saying? I know that you do. Today we have a very interesting topic that we're going to discuss. It is Talk It Out Tuesday. So you know it's Talk It Out Tuesday, so Tori and I are going to be having a conversation. And today we are discussing single Black mothers raising sons. Raising a strong Black son. We want to hear, and we're going to share some stories and some insights from experience of being single mothers. All right? So before we do that, before we get into all of that, what we're going to do, we're going to take that moment for ourselves. We're going to recalibrate. We're going to breathe. And how do we do this thing? We're going to inhale at the count of 4, and then we're going to hold it for a few seconds. And then we're going to exhale and hold that a few seconds. And then we'll do that a few times. And then we'll be ready to get into our chat. All right? So let's do it. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold a few seconds. Exhale. Hold a few seconds. Inhale again. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. Hold that a few seconds. One more time. Inhale. Hold a few seconds. And exhale. Shake it off, shake it off, shake it off. Hope you're feeling pretty good. So before you decide to eat anything, I hope that you did take the chance, and I hope that you recentered yourself, recalibrated yourself, and did the breathing with us. I know that I feel good. I feel good. It is Tuesday, and I love Tuesday. I love Tuesday because I get to talk to Tori. You know, we come in here and we have a really great conversation. She always has good conversation. That's what she does. You know, she's a radio personality. She does podcasting. So naturally, she's a person who's easy to talk to. And you have to be careful when you're talking to Tori as well, because you may end up saying some things that you may not want to say. I tell you that. But today we are going to be discussing, can single mothers raise men on their own? So what I am going to do is I'm going to bring Tori into the broadcast. How you doing, Tori?
I am doing well. And I was laughing because you know, talking to Tori, you said you may say something you don't want to say. That was funny to me.
Well, I mean, I have to tell the truth. I mean, you know, you have this way. You do what you do. So basically, you do your job very well.
Good afternoon. I'm so happy to be here. I look forward to Tuesdays.
Yes. So do
And
I.
I'm
So do
looking
I. So do I.
forward and I'm looking forward to this topic today.
I am too. So let me, well, you know, I don't have to tell you this because you know, you chose this topic for today,
I
right?
did. Yes, I did.
And you know, you get to choose these topics. We do this thing here together. And I don't know what made you choose this topic. So maybe you might want to share with me right now. Why did you think this would be a good topic to discuss?
Well, I wanted to discuss this topic because so many times I have been criticized with people telling me that I'm not making the right decisions for my son. A woman cannot raise a son, and I want to change the narrative of that because we as black women, strong black women, might I add, we are capable. Now, we are able to instill in our sons morals and values. Now, I can't teach him certain things because I'm not a man, but I can instill in him core values, instill in him Christian values. Now, no matter what any parent, whether you're the mother or father, if it's up to the child, sometimes we can teach them all day long, but sometimes they can also stray away as well. But I think a lot of times we're criticized because I actually saw a podcast where the man, there was this guy, I don't want to say his name, but he was like, single mothers, they ruin men. And I disagree with that. Because
Wow.
I get a lot of compliments of people saying how well mannered my son is. And I get, he's a straight A student, so I'm very proud of that. And I like to think I'm doing a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to, change the narrative. And prime example, look at two men that are successful that were raised by single mothers, Barack Obama,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Baisden. They're
Okay.
successful men, and I feel like we are capable. And of course, we also have a village of people that are helping us as well. And I also have men in my son's life that help me with certain things that I'm not capable of doing, like as far as like aspect in regards to males, because I have an older brother that takes my son under his wing, and there's other people that look out for my son. Matter of fact, I see Tanya Vale is actually tuning in, and and her husband looks out for my son as well, and he's another one that takes my son under his wing. So I appreciate the men that step up, and even though his father is not in his life, you know, there are men that are stepping up to the plate, and I applaud them. Also, my Pastor Kelsey also steps up to the plate. So I appreciate those men. But we as single moms, we are capable of raising some productive sons. Because
Absolutely.
and I tell my son all the time that you have no control over how people treat you, but you can control how you respond and how you react. And I also tell him that if you can't walk in love, to walk away. I teach
Mm-hmm.
him that kindness and love will win every single time.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Those of you who are joining in right now, we are discussing today on Talk It Out Tuesday. We're talking about single mothers raising sons, right? And as we
Mhm.
continue to explore, the experiences that single mothers can have raising sons, it's important to acknowledge that it's not an easy task. But many single mothers have been doing it for years and years, like forever, I imagine. Yes, single
Mhm.
mothers face certain challenges when it comes to parenting, but just like you said, Tori, you have people who are around you. You have men who are a part of his life, and I feel like that is an important component to raising a son, particularly for single mothers. You've got to provide positive role models. And those role models can
Absolutely.
be people in their family, just like it's your brother. It could be a family member, friends, a mentor. But it's important for them to have some type of male bonding and somebody that they can develop a strong sense of masculinity with, so that they can have some type of guidance in that direction. So we
Absolutely.
do these things. And you brought up, someone who I feel like is a great example that we can all kind of look at because he had a world spotlight, former President Barack Obama, yes. But
Absolutely.
we know people all around us.
Mhm.
We know people all around us. Single mothers have raised so many men in this society. So I don't know what the flack is really about. Why do you
Whew.
think? The flack is more now because I sense that it is a lot more now than it probably has been. Maybe, or maybe I'm just paying attention to it more. I don't know if it's social media bringing attention to it more. What do you think that is?
I think that the day and age that we're living in, I think social media is bringing more attention to it. Saying that narrative because I'm telling you, when I saw that podcast, I'm gonna tell you when we get off the air who it was. But when I saw that particular podcast and the gentleman went as far as to say that single mothers are ruining men, that it's our
Wow.
fault that men are so abusive and I mean so many bad. I'm like, what? Really? I'm like, oh my
Listen,
goodness.
I let me tell you this. I'm sharing my Facebook screen right now, and I put
Okay.
a post up this morning, and the
Hmm.
post said, "Good morning to my good people. It's Tuesday. I have a question for you. It's deep, but there's a conversation to be had. Can we talk about single mothers raising boys? Are they failing our culture? What's your immediate thought?" And so I have Kawana James who actually commented here. And she says, sometimes women have no choice. But I do believe that as women, we should make smarter choices about who we have children with in the first place. Real talk. Where does that
That's
comment take
true.
you?
That is listen, that's real talk for real because honestly, if we want to be truthful, I wasn't my son's father is a situation that I was not supposed to be in, but that's nor here nor there because he's here. But I
Mm-hmm.
will go on the record because I rather put it out there because those that really know me know my story. But if you don't, you're about to find out. I was in a affair because my son's father was married. So that was a situation that I wasn't supposed to be in. So what she said is very true. We have to be very careful who we are having our children with. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I look back at that particular being in that particular situation, I will admit and be honest and to put my to be dating a married man, be involved with a married man, I feel as though I deal with this on a daily basis sometimes. I'm getting better at it. I have to forgive myself, but sometimes I feel like I failed my son because I set myself up to be a single mother. So what she said is
Mm.
very true. I set
Well,
myself up to be a single mother. But
and,
I had to forgive myself for it because that in that particular time I was in a different headspace. But I'm
well,
free.
hear the
That's
thing.
right, Miss Tanya. I see
Hear
Tanya
this.
been
Hear this.
uh-huh.
Hear this.
Hmm.
Uh, there was a blessing in that lesson.
Absolutely.
There was a blessing with that lesson, and that happens. And I want to say this too. If we're going to be completely honest about it,
Hmm.
many women, many women,
Hmm.
their firstborn, I don't know necessarily that it was planned. I don't know a whole lot. I personally do not know. I
Right.
really don't. And we have to be
Right.
honest about that because when you think about it, a lot of women have
Hmm.
children at a young age. Well, people in general typically have children at a young age. So why we make such a big deal out of young mothers and we say all of this, if you really think about it, on average, women are
Hmm.
having children at a young age. And a
Hmm.
lot of women I know and personally may not have planned their first child. I didn't. Love my child
Hmm.
to death. Wasn't planned. And I very much do agree with the comment that Kawana made. She said we should, you know, make smarter choices about children, about who we have children with in the first place. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, but if you did not plan to have a child with that person that you had sex with, that's a totally different ball game. And so if we
Yeah.
take it into that, I mean, I think we'll be talking about something else. I don't, it would be a lot of children who would not be here. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? And
Right.
probably a lot of us, if we're
Right.
going to be honest about that, that's just that's just fact.
It
It really
is.
is. I want to read another comment as well that I saw someone make on the post. Yuma, she says, I think it all depends on how we raise our sons. Yes, they are our babies, but we can't really baby them. We have to teach them accountability, work ethic, respect, and values, and that they need to know in order to grow into a proper man. On the other hand, I believe being a single boy mom robs you of some of your femininity because you're trying to teach masculine traits. She said a lot here.
That is a lot.
She said a lot
Ooh,
here.
it was good
I
though.
gotta read over that again
Ooh,
as I think about what she's saying. She said, I think it all depends on how we raise our sons.
mm,
True. Yes, they're our babies, but we can't really baby them. Okay, we can stop
mhm.
right there for a minute with what she said.
Yeah,
It's
we got to
true.
unpack this.
We gotta unpack that. They are our babies, but we can't
Right.
baby them. Speak on
Right.
that.
I actually, a lot of times people have told me that I was too hard on my son because I didn't. That was one of the things I work hard not to do, not to baby him. And see, you know how y'all, well, you don't have grandkids yet, but grandparents, they're a totally different ball game. And I felt like my mom baby him. I'm like, no, you can't do that. He's a boy. But I was really hard on him. And a lot of people said that I shouldn't, but it's paying off because it in the long run, he's gonna thank he may not like it now, but he's gonna thank me later. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
let me also say this. Now, Kadarius is currently a straight A student. But I will say in his when he was in middle school, he's currently 11th grade student. And when he was in middle school, I will say we had our relationship was up and down. And that was because he was really, really missing his father. And he wasn't talking to me because I had to realize that a lot of times little boys and men, they shut down. And a lot of times I would ask him what would be wrong, but he didn't want to tell me. So I discussed it with a male friend of mine and he said, "Well, maybe he's missing his father." So I asked that question. I asked my son, "Are you missing your father?" And he told me he did cuz there was one particular year he had a birthday. I took off from work. I made plans to take him out to dinner and he was like, "I don't want to go out to eat. I want to play basketball." So imagine I planned this dinner. He want to go just shoot hoops. And I was upset about that. I was upset about that. And so I discussed it with my male friend. He was like, "Well, Tori, just ask him, about his father." So come to find out, shooting hoops for him was like a healing process
Right.
because he wanted his father there and his father wasn't there. And that
Mm-hmm.
particular year, he was celebrating his milestone birthday.
Right.
He was like 13 years old. And he was like, that scene in Will Smith where he said, "Why my father don't want me?" That's how my son was feeling.
Ah,
And so
right,
I
right,
had to
right.
take it so I had to take it all in, and I just asked him, some probing questions, and we actually had a great conversation. So now I listen because we can't always listen to respond. We have to listen to understand. So I
Right.
always advise my son to express himself. And I tell other single moms, like, I hate when people say, like, because men and boys, they have emotions as well. And I hate when a mother tell their son, especially if they say like they're 2 or 3, "Man up." I can't stand that phrase. They are a
Okay,
child.
stop right there. You're right. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
I got you, and I agree with that. But I want to. I'm reading through the comments here that are being left on Facebook, and I have a comment from Sylvester because remember now the question was,
Mhm.
are single mothers failing our culture? Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And here's his answer. He said yes. He said boys should live with their fathers if it is ever an option. How do you feel about that?
Okay. How do I feel about that? In some cases, I don't feel that they should. And let me explain what I mean. If that father is not a good model, role model, I don't think that they should. Now, if they're a good role model, then they should. And I don't, there's a whole lot I could say, but I don't want to bash his father. But I'll just say in my son's case, that would not have been a good idea. I think that if he would have lived with his father, then my son probably would not have turned out the way he's turning out. I think sometimes there is a blessing in the absence. And that's just my personal opinion. And I can only speak from my experience. But there are some traits that you don't want your child having. There are some things that you don't want your child seeing. There are some things that you don't want your child hearing. And a lot of times, children will mirror what they see. So I'm glad that he doesn't live with his father because there's a lot
Right.
of lot of traits that I think my son would have picked up on it had he lived with his father. So and to a
Okay.
degree, I can understand what he's saying, but if the father is not a good role model, and like I said, listen, you guys, I'm not bashing his father. I'll just say I feel like bottom line, I feel like the absence is a blessing, and I can only speak from Tori's experience. It's a blessing for me.
Right. You're pretty much, I mean, that's where we have to speak from. We have to speak
Yeah.
from our personal experience. So
Mhm.
I get that.
Yeah.
And but just to piggyback off of that a little bit, you're right. It may not be the best option. And it may not be an option that let's also put into the mix that there may be fathers who do not choose to take that responsibility on. That is
Mhm.
something that they may not want. So, it might not be an option. And let's put this in the mix because it happens.
Mhm.
There are women who are widowed. There are many young people whose their father, is not with them at no fault of anyone because he's
Right.
passed away.
Right.
But these kids must be raised. So clearly, being raised by a single parent, being raised by a single mother, is not really destroying young people's lives. Some opportunities they're missing, perhaps.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
know it. We need to be honest about it. Yes, they are missing some things by not having that figure in the household. But are we ruining the culture? No, definitely
No.
not.
No, that's too
Definitely
far. I
not.
don't I don't think that's too
But
far.
but there, but the narrative is out there.
It is. It is.
Yes, it is. I also I see another comment here on my Facebook page. If I can go over to it really quick, I see that Travis Hunter. He says my immediate thought is, why is she doing it on her own? She didn't create the child alone. I believe most women are doing the best that they can, but where is the father?
That's a great question. I mean, great
And that,
response. Great response. Like I said, in my situation, I father is married. He is no longer in the picture. He would be here and there. And over the past 5 years, he hasn't been there at all. So that's a choice that he made because I'm not one of those parents that would keep my son from his father. And I tell my son all the time that if he wants to reach out to his father, he could. But here's the thing: it is not a child's responsibility to run behind an adult. And like I
right,
said, I would never block my son's father from reaching out. But over the past 5 years, there hasn't been no contact at all for the past 5 years. The last time my son spoke or saw his father was in 2018. And it's 2023. It's been 5 years ago. And so I
right,
asked my son from time to time just to do a check in. Are you okay? And I tell my son that if his father were to knock on the door today or tomorrow, to welcome him with open arms and to forgive. But at the same time, I have to allow my son to feel what he needs to feel. Because I had a friend of mine to check me. She was like, well, Tori, you can't expect him, like if he came to knock on your door, you can't expect him to just like, hey, how you doing? She said, no, he may not feel that way. And I had to, I received what she was telling me because I was just teaching him, just welcome with open arms as if it was excusing his absence.
Right.
And she's like, no, he has to feel what he needs to feel. So that's what I do. I'll check in from time to time and I'll ask him, how does he feel? And he was like, at this point, my son is like, it's whatever. So I'm like, okay. And I have to allow him to feel whatever he needs to feel.
You're right. I see Keeping Up with C, she says, great point, Tori. The child should not have to run behind an adult. And I love the open, transparent conversations you have with your son. Absolutely, you have to do that. And I mean, you know, you're being very transparent. And
Yeah.
even without the detail,
Yeah.
everything that you're saying is
Hmm.
generally what a single mother experiences in a lot of ways. I can
Hmm.
speak from the experience, not totally, but I can speak from it from being a divorced parent. So my son had his father very much involved in his life for over, half of his life. And then, coming from, I kind of don't really want to say a broken home because I don't feel like our home necessarily, is a broken home in those terms. But the dynamics of our family change drastically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's still an issue. Anytime a young person grows up with a two-parent household and then, they go through a divorce, naturally there's going to be a trauma for them. So I'm very open to that. I was always open to that. And very much like yourself, and some of your friends were telling you, you've got to allow them to feel what they feel. Their
Hmm.
feelings are valid. And when they're young, when they're going into those early teen years and into those teenage years, those kind of hormonal type of things going on. So they're dealing with that. They're dealing with emotions. They're dealing with dynamics of being in a single parent home. They've got a lot of feelings that they really don't know how to process. Because
Absolutely.
think about us as adults, many of us. I mean, we get into our 40s or whatever the case may be, and then that's when you kind of start finding yourself. Believe it or not, you're taking that time to say, you know what, I'm finding myself. You're dealing with some problems and some issues that you didn't have all of the information, or you didn't have everything to deal with then. So we cannot expect children, and especially our young sons, to be able to process that. But one of the things that's really great, what helps them to continue to grow and help them develop, is the fact that we have positive role models in their life, fostering, an open communication with them. We've got to make sure that our sons are able to come to us because it's just us. They've got to be able to come with us with any question or any concern. And we've got to be able to encourage them and encourage that open communication because we've got to be able to listen. We've got to be able to listen
Absolutely.
without judgment because who
Absolutely.
else are they going to go to?
That's the
Right?
key right there, without judgment. And that's what I tell my son all the time. I say, you can talk to me about anything. He says, and I say, even if you think I'm going to get upset, I'm going to respect and listen to what you have to say. And let me also say this, that we have to be careful. This is something that I had to learn a lot of times, and it's just not with me, but some parents, we find ourselves not talking to our children, but talking at our children. And I had to reverse that because, like I said, the last time my son spoke to his father was in 2018. So we went through a little rough patch where he was missing his dad. And so I found myself doing a lot of yelling and talking at him. So then I went on a fast and I started praying, and God said to me, you got to reverse that. So instead of talking and yelling at him, I started speaking to him. And I actually wrote him a letter. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share the letter that I wrote to him. And I wrote this in 2019. It says, Dear Kadarius, I want you to know that you are a young king. You are destined for greatness. I want you to believe in yourself and to always do your best in all you do. You can achieve anything that you put your mind to in this thing called life. I'm getting emotional because I remember that time. You have got to work hard and do all you can to achieve your goals. God loves you more than anything, and so do I, whether you believe it or not. I believe in you more than you know. I want you to work harder and stay focused. Life is not going to get any easier. if anything is going to get if anything is going to get a lot harder. I will be by your side always. I will always have your back. Although you upset me at times, I will never, ever give up on you. Giving up on you is not an option. Kadarius, it is very important for you to be a leader and not a follower. Because at that time, he was following the wrong crowd. I said, do not do what everyone else is doing. It's okay to be different and to stand out. Always be an original and not a copy. Be yourself always. Your real friends will accept you for who you are, and you will not have to compromise your identity. When I found out I was pregnant with you, I prayed for a boy. God granted me what I wanted. I know that you will make me proud. I know that you're going to be successful in this thing called life. I know that the path in life God has laid out for you, you will follow. There may be some obstacles in life, but God has equipped you with the ability to overcome them. This is your season for grace and favor. I love you so much, son. And when I tell y'all, when I started talking to my son instead of talking at him, our relationship, the dynamics of our relationship changed drastically. And now that's
Wow.
my very best friend.
That's awesome because that's key. We have to make sure that they, have some type of emotional intelligence. And by you being very, very open like that and being very transparent, displaying your emotion, I felt like you allowed him to see, you know, um, that it's okay. I think you were fostering, empathy within him so that he could be caring, so that he could be compassionate. And that is a part of being a good man, a great man. To be a great man does, caring does not make you soft. So that was awesome. I see keeping up with C, she says, that letter. Yeah, that letter, that was something else there, I tell you. Also we have Keisha here. She says, that's awesome. Love that, Tori. I had to make a change as well. I want to ask you, you wrote the letter and thank you for sharing that because you really took it a lot further than you really had to by sharing that. But what made you feel like writing the letter was the way to go? Did you feel like it was easier for you to write a letter? And also what I want to ask you, and you can include this as well, what was his response?
Let me tell you, when I made a decision to stop yelling at him, stop talking at him, I felt like I was like, you know what? My son probably thinks that I don't love him. But we all know as parents, when we discipline our children, that's when you know that we love you the most. But at that point in our lives, I felt like my son hated me. So
Hmm.
that's the reason why I wrote the letter. And I wanted him
Okay.
to understand that I how much I loved him. Because at that point we were just it just seemed like he just thought that I hated him when that wasn't the case.
That's that, but that's that, now because you've gone through it, but
Yeah.
that's that age and stage where kids are. And that's whether they're in a two family home or not.
Yeah.
Teenagers are going to be teenagers and they're experiencing that.
No,
But
but Tanya, it was bad.
yeah, well, listen, having a two parent home doesn't mean that kids aren't going to experience some things and go through whatever it is that they go through. They
Yeah.
are. They really are. But talking to them and learning to talk to them, that
Mhm.
helps. And
Yeah.
I see keeping up with C here, she says talking helps so much. I will always strive to be the parent my son wants to talk to and not feel judged or uncomfortable, but loved and understood. And that's not an easy thing to do. It really, really isn't.
Yeah.
Also, we have a message here from Kendria. She says, thanks, Tori, for being transparent about this topic. A lot of people are responding to your transparency because, once again, you didn't have to share that. That could be very personal. And, it's online. We don't know. Your son could be listening because he listens to some of your stuff. He knows that you are a podcaster. He knows sometimes you're a guest on shows, so he could be. You know what I'm saying?
He's probably listening because I told him we were going. Well, he knows that I was going live at 12, so he probably is listening. And this is nothing that I haven't already shared with him, so he knows all of these things. But it's just and when I initially wrote the letter, and I wrote this letter back in 2019, and I wrote it like 4:00 in the morning. So when I gave him the letter the next day, he was just like in awe. He just like gave me a hug. And it's just like I said, when I prayed and I fast, it's like our relationship changed drastically because at that time he was following the wrong crowd. Cause this was like right before the pandemic. And for me, I understand we lost people due to the pandemic, but for the pandemic, for me, it has been a blessing. And let me unpack and say what I mean by that. It brought me and my son closer because he was home he's still home. He's still virtual. So he's been home with me every day. It brought our relationship, brought us so much closer. And not only did it bring us closer, but before the pandemic, he was failing like 3 classes. And I got on his neck. I was like, yo, we're not finna do this. So by the end of his 8th grade year, he has been on the honor roll. And he's been a straight A student ever since. So to all the people that said I couldn't do it, you said I couldn't do it, but guess what, baby? I'm doing it. My son is a straight A student. A straight A student. But it wasn't easy. But like I said, nothing happened overnight, but my son started changing. And prior to his 9th grade year, he told me, he said, when I start high school, I'm going to be on the honor roll. And y'all, he's been on the honor roll ever since.
That's great.
Yeah.
He had a goal. I mean, ultimately, the question is whether or not single mothers can successfully raise men on their own. And we know the answer to that. It's just some people are going to try to just let one bad apple spoil the whole bunch, and we can't do that.
Yeah.
It happens, but we just going to have to throw that apple out, you know what I mean? Because while having a male figure in the home is certainly beneficial, it's not always possible. Mm-hmm. It's just not. And like I said, whether that is from divorce, whether the parents were never married, if the father died, if he just never from inception had any intention of being involved in that child's life, sometimes it is just not possible. Sure, it might be easy to say, well, maybe you need to think about who you're having kids with. Mm-hmm. That's not even a good thing to say because there are many children who have not been planned. And if you're saying that, then there would be a vast number of aborted kids who would not even be talking, walking, and in this world right now. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to be honest and we're going to have the conversation, let's start there. And some of the same people who think they have that opinion, if they ask their mother, and if they are the first child, I can almost guarantee that they were not planned. I do not know many women who plan their first child, and especially if they had the child young. Right. It just doesn't happen like that. And I don't know why we have this fairy tale belief that everybody's like, oh, I'm going to have my baby at 25. Yeah, okay, well, there's someone who plans that. Mm-hmm. There is. But there's a whole lot who don't. It's many of us who don't. I didn't. Didn't plan. You don't have to plan a child to make a decision to have a child.
Right. Absolutely.
There's a big difference. And no matter what the circumstance of that pregnancy, to make the decision to have that child, married, unmarried, like the father, indifference with the father, whatever the case may be, to make that decision to go term because, well, things have changed so much in the world right now. I was going to say we have the right to make that decision, but they've changed some laws. But in
Mm-hmm.
my day,
Right.
we had the opportunity to make a decision of whether or not we wanted to have a child or not. We had to make that decision. I'm not getting into anyone's religious beliefs. I'm not getting into anyone's moral beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, we had that opportunity to make that decision. So you didn't have to have that kid. I didn't have to
Right.
have my daughter. My
Mm-hmm.
mother didn't have to have me. So you
Right.
understand where I'm coming from with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had a choice.
I we're not we're not destroying the world.
Right.
We've made the world a better place. I promise you. There's a whole lot of young men who have been raised by single mothers who are some of the greatest leaders the world has ever seen, you know?
Right. Right. And
So,
I know my
but
son
let
is
me
gonna be a
ask you
great leader.
another question here,
Okay.
in terms because we had someone who brought up it's important not to over feminize your son. And I don't know really where I sit with that because I don't necessarily know that we can really do that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I also see another comment from Gloria Anderson on my Facebook page. And she said, I truly believe that boys need their fathers in their lives. It's a void that a mother cannot fill. Absolutely. We cannot replace their father. We're not trying to replace the father. We're in a situation where it is what it is, and we got to do what we got to do. But do you feel like a mother can over feminize her son?
I don't think so. I don't think you can because, like, I guess that goes back to how some people say we baby them too much.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, I can see that, but that wasn't my story.
I got you.
And even though my mother baby baby her grandbaby because that's her only grandson, only grandchild. Even though
Right.
she babied him, he still is not he's not feminine at all.
Well, hey, somebody's got to do it, and I guess it's good if a grandmother does it. I see
Right.
that. I see that Tanya Vale here. She says, "Your testimony is going to enlighten and free so many others. I'm even reflecting and thinking I may need to go back and have some conversations with my grown sons."
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
good. That's really
absolutely.
good. That's really
That's the whole
good.
point of conversation.
Yes,
It
yes,
really
yes.
is. That's the whole point of, for me, doing this podcast and really kind of getting into this area of
Mhm.
podcasting because, listen, YouTube and the world is not short of any podcasts. There's lots of them out here,
Right.
and so when you decide that you want to do something like this, you really want to make sure that you're doing something that is impactful. Not so
Mhm.
much to say that I'm doing something that's different. I don't think that anything is necessarily new, but I just know that I want to be involved with a different conversation. I want to
And
be able to.
I'm glad that you said that. Not to interrupt you, I apologize for interrupting, but I'm glad that you said that because there are a lot of podcasts, but you are one of those podcasts, and I strive to be one of those podcasts that we make an impact. The content is quality, it's positive, it's uplifting. Like people, you want to have people to look forward to listening to you because it gives them. They may be having a bad day, and it's oh, I'm gonna tune in to Tanya, the Brown South girls, and listen to her and the daughter, and it uplifts their spirits because there's so much negative content. We need that positivity. So I think it's so important to be impactful. Because I will say this, my son is 17, and my son looks at me at times as if I haven't done any wrong. And I had to explain to him because I didn't tell my son until he was old enough to understand the fact that I had him, and I can only be this is me, y'all. I can only be authentic and transparent. That's just who I am. But I waited till my son was old enough to understand, but I explained to him that his father was married. And my son looked at me, he was like, "Really?" because my son thought that I was perfect. And I said, son, I am far from perfect. And my son is 17 years old and he has never seen me with anyone. Yeah, I've done some things,
Wow.
but I never did anything in front of him. So that's
I
why
let
he
me
has, go ahead.
let me say this. I applaud that because I certainly am a parent who feels like discussions should be have, but they have to be age appropriate. So it's not
Mhm.
about hiding anything from them at particular ages, but they're just not at an age where they can kind of conceptually deal with some of the information that you may be giving them. So age appropriate content and age appropriate conversation are kind of like the same thing for me, you know? And
Right,
you think about, why would you want him to find that out somewhere else? So I
right,
applaud you as a parent for saying, okay, you know what? I feel like he's at a place right now. He is of an understanding where I can at least introduce this to him. And if he wants
right.
to have a further conversation, we can have a further conversation. But let me put this here. Let me put this out on the table. Let me let him know who he is. Let me let him know who I am. And
Mhm.
then we can grow. We can grow from here. So I'm telling you, hats off, Mom. Definitely.
Thank you. And that's the thing. He always knew from the beginning who his father was. I just never told him the situation until he got old enough to understand. And like I said, he's 17 and he's never seen me with anyone. It's because I'm very careful of, even with him growing up, I'm very careful of the things that I did in front of him. I'm very careful of conversations I've had in front, and I'm still careful of what I say around him and what I do around him. Even though he's older now, I'm still careful of that. But he's never seen me with anyone. So I remember him asking me when he was probably, I think he was like 5 or 6 years old, and he said to me, he said, "Mom, I want you to be married." He said, "Cause you're a sweet mommy, and I want you to have a husband." And I'm looking at him like,
Wow.
that's not my focus right now. I just want to be a good mother to you and make sure you have the tools that you need. So don't you be worrying about that. And let me tell you a funny story. I went to, and this was when he was younger. I went to Walmart, and there was a guy that approached me, and he wanted to talk to me. You know how we say he tried to holler at me. And so my son looked at him and said, "You can't talk to my mommy because you can't even pull your pants up." So that was really funny to me. So the guy looked, he said, "No, you can't talk to my mommy."
Yeah. I tell you, my son did that a lot too. Like I'd be out and anybody trying to holler, my son would give them a look. You think he was a big 6 foot muscle bound man. Like, well, at the time from those young teenage years, like,
Yeah.
don't try to talk to his mama. Do not. He get ready to give you a look. And I remember one particular gentleman, he was like, "Oh man," he's like, "I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean any harm." And he was not having it. And I'll say this too, just coming from my particular experience with having been divorced, my son, he told me that he was like, "Ma, you know what?" He was like, "I don't want to have a stepfather." And I'm like, wow, where is that coming from? Because, like yourself, he wasn't seeing me out with anyone like that. He's used to, he knew his parents growing up together.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I had to be real with him because at that point, I can't predict the future. I didn't know what would happen or could happen, and I'm an open person. So I was like, well, son, I said, I tell you what, I said, that's not your decision to make. But I will say this. If there is someone in my life who is making you uncomfortable and who is making you feel unsafe, I feel like your responsibility would be to tell me that. But it's not your responsibility to tell me who I'm going to have in my life, because if I make that decision, I will make that decision. But I'll also say this. Before I ever decide to do anything like that, We're going to have a conversation as a family. You, your sister, and myself, and we will talk about it. So it will not come out of nowhere, but you don't get to decide that. So don't even worry about that. We'll have a conversation. And if I do marry someone else and someone else comes into your life, your responsibility is to let me know that this person is not treating me right. And you have to make that deal with me that you're going to be able to communicate that. And that's where we left it.
Absolutely. I love that too. I like what keep Cece's comment. I love what she said. I love how you worded that respect and boundaries were put in place. That was really, 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 really good. That was I love how you just said that, Tanya. Ooh, Lord, that
Keeping
just
up with
blessed my
C, she
soul.
says, I love how you worded that. Respect and boundaries were put in place. You're right. You said that. But that's how you have to be. That's how you
Right.
want to be with your children. Because as parents, we're not
Mhm.
perfect.
And
We're
we're not.
figuring this thing out. The kids didn't come with instructions. They didn't.
Right.
So when you have these relationship dynamics that children had nothing to do with,
Mhm.
you've got to figure
Mhm.
that thing out, and you've got to raise them no matter what happened, no matter
Mhm.
where the father is, how active he wants to be in their life. And I got to say this too. I don't know that I like when people say, "Well, where is the father?" Like,
Right.
why are they asking the mother, where is the father? Is it not clear that he is not here?
Right, right, right. And let me say a couple things. I don't know how to say this word correctly, but you know how when the mother is unmarried, or in my situation, the father was married, how you call them illegitimate. Y'all know what I
Right,
mean, what I'm trying
illegitimate.
to say, illegitimate.
I don't like
And
that.
I love how my pastors told, and I think that made me feel a whole lot better. There was like, there's no such thing as illegitimate children, but there could be illegitimate parents because we don't make the right decisions.
Come on.
The child does not, you don't hold that child responsible for decisions that the parent made. And that child
Mm-hmm.
has to be here. And like you said, Tanya, my son is truly a blessing. It may have not came out the ordained situation, but he has truly been a blessing to my life. And I also want to say, to keeping up with C, I follow her on social media, and I love the relationship that she has with her son. He
Yeah.
is such a sweet little boy. I love watching it, and I think she's doing such a phenomenal job. He is so loving, so kind, so empathetic at such a young age. So I want to tell her she's doing a phenomenal job. Just keep doing what you're doing, because you guys, when a child is brought up around so much love, they express that love within the world. And I think
Yeah.
that's important.
And I'll tell you something too. I think we often forget the it's an African proverb, and I hope I'm not butchering it up, because I know that we as Americans, we butcher it up a lot too. We say it takes a village to raise a child, but there's a word missing in there. It takes a whole village
Mm,
to raise a child.
yeah.
That means even if two parents are in a home, it takes that whole village to
Mm-hmm.
raise that child.
Right.
Because not even two parents can be there all of the times. Two parents cannot make sure that that child is whole. There's a whole lot going on in this world. You've got to have people around you. Your village is what helps you make that kid whole. So we've got to stop thinking that just because kids are in a two-parent home, that they're just great people, because you know that they're not. There are a lot of people behind bars doing some criminal things, doing some unethical things, who are just not good people, period. And they grew up in a two-family home. And you don't know what is going on behind those closed doors. You got two parents in the home, but what kind of parents are they? Are they really loving each other? Are they respecting each other? So, what are you teaching them? What type of values are you teaching them in terms of relationship? Are they going to be better people because they grew up in a two-parent home? Some kids become better because their parents did decide to stop being miserable and ruining each other's lives
Mm,
and basically ruining their children's lives by separating. It made
absolutely.
for a happier home.
Hmm.
It makes for happier people, happier families. You don't have to be together for that. That's what
Right.
the whole village is about.
Right.
Grandma, neighbor, teacher,
Hmm.
doctor,
Yeah.
everybody around us. It's not that single mother. No kid is raised by a single mother. We're not
Hmm.
doing anything by ourselves, which is why I personally don't even like when people even tell me that I'm a good mother. Okay, well, say what you want to say, but I'm going to just be honest. When people tell me that I'm a good mother, I don't even have a feeling for that because I don't feel like it's their responsibility to tell me that. If my kids tell me that, okay, I love them and I will appreciate and respect it from them, but I don't need that from the outside because I know that I didn't do it by myself. I
Right.
didn't.
Right.
There are some heavier responsibilities that I've had to take on, but I
Yeah.
didn't do it by myself. And ultimately, we have to know that every mother who raises her child successfully has
Mhm.
had a group of people behind her. We've got our village. You got your village, right?
Yes.
You
And I
know who
thank
that
God
village
for
is.
them. Yes.
Right, right,
Yes.
right, right. Well, I think it's been a very, very, very good conversation. It's a conversation that we could talk some more on it.
This was really good.
We could.
This
I
was
can't even
really
believe
good.
this hour has passed by so very quickly.
I know, right?
I
But it
can't.
was really good. Oh man, this was really good. I really enjoyed this conversation. And this is
Yes,
a conversation I really needed. And I wanted to be able to read the letter without getting emotional, but it's just I don't know, when I guess I was reflecting when I started reading, I was reflecting at that moment in time where I was when I wrote the letter, where me and my son's relationship was at that time. That's why I couldn't. Every time I read it, I get emotional, but I just reflect on how far God has brought us. I mean, we are so close now. My son talks to me about everything, even
that's
some stuff
great.
I don't need to, some things I don't need to know about. But he tells me about a lot of things, and I thank God for that because there was a time where he, like I said, he was shut down a lot, but he opens up and talks to me a whole lot more now. So I'm just grateful, truly grateful for that, and truly grateful for the people that didn't give up on me. Didn't there were people that was lifting me up where others was tearing me down because of course, Tanya, I got more flack for me personally because of the situation. I got more flack because I had a child from a married man. But of course, I'm not the first and I won't be the last. But I feel as
Mm-mm.
though I went through it so that I can help someone else maybe going through that same situation. If I got through it, you can get through it too. And it
Absolutely.
doesn't and understand that your past does not define your future. Whatever
Not at
God has
all.
for you, nobody or no situation can block it. So I'm grateful for my tribe. I'm grateful for people like you that I have in my life that keep me grounded. And I'm just truly grateful because I have a great group of people around me now. And I'm just
And
truly grateful for that.
and that's what it takes. And that is the bottom line. So basically, I mean, are single women raising men? Yes, we always have been, and very successfully. We have been. We're going to continue to. So, through determination, resilience, and willingness to seek out that support, single mothers help their sons become strong and successful men. We've been doing it. We're going to keep doing it. And we're going to keep loving because that's what a mother does. That's exactly what a mother does. I hope you all have been able to gain something from this conversation. I hope that this will make you feel a little bit better about some situations that you may be in. I hope it might make you think a little bit differently from that woman that you may be judging. Yeah, don't do that. The kids didn't come with instructions. No one planned it. No one planned to have a broken home, and we're not even going to call it a broken home. We just have different situations. But let's just keep loving our kids, keep raising our kids. And if you see a single mother out there and you can be a part of that village, instead of questioning where the father is, be someone who's important. Be someone who does something that makes that young man want to be a better man. All right? You know what time it is? It's time for us to shake it off. We want to go into a little breath work. You know how we do it? Yeah. We're going to inhale to the count of 4. We're going to hold it a few seconds. We're going to exhale, hold that a few seconds. And we're going to do that a few times. And we are going to reclaim our time, get our mind right, get our vibe right, so that we can rock out the rest of the day. So you can be a great part of that village. All right? Let's breathe. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold it a few seconds. Exhale. Hold that a few seconds. Inhale again. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. Hold a few seconds. And one more time. Inhale. Hold that a few seconds. Now exhale. All right? How'd that feel? I hope you feel wonderful. I hope you have a wonderful day. And have those conversations. Open yourself up to have those conversations that you think are difficult conversations. Go out here and be a better part of the village. Enjoy your day. One love, y'all.